For months, I kept seeing the same exact pattern showing up across the scientific literature. We're talking different studies, different countries, all pointing to one conclusion. That glass of water you drink every morning, it could actually be working against you. Or it could become the most powerful, least expensive health intervention you've ever made. The difference isn't the water. It's three simple compounds whose absence is quietly accelerating the deterioration that really kicks in after 50.
So let's really get into this. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you considered what your body is actually doing all night while you sleep? I can tell you, it's not just resting. It is hard at work, performing critical, demanding maintenance. And because of that, what it needs the moment you wake up is incredibly specific. So here's the bottom line. Every single morning, your body emerges from sleep facing three very distinct, very real challenges. Number one, you are dehydrated. Number two, you are depleted of magnesium. And number three, you are carrying an acid load that your kidneys, especially after age 50, are getting slower and slower at processing. Okay, let's tackle that first challenge, dehydration. And we're not just talking about feeling thirsty. This state of dehydration is what triggers a hormonal stress response before your feet even hit the floor.
Think about this. While you're sleeping, your body can lose up to 800 milliliters of water. That's a huge amount. It's nearly 2 full glasses, lost just from breathing and sweating a little bit overnight. Now, your body doesn't register this as just slight thirst. It registers it as a physiological threat. And this is the chain reaction that follows. That water loss makes your blood more concentrated, which triggers the release of a hormone called vasopressin. And here's the critical link that recent research from the Journal of Applied Physiology has confirmed. Vasopressin directly pours gasoline on the fire of your morning cortisol spike. It literally amplifies it, starting your day in a state of high hormonal stress. And this brings me to a critical warning. If you happen to take blood pressure medication, this exaggerated morning cortisol spike can absolutely affect your readings before you've even had a single bite of food. All right, now let's build on that. The second piece of the puzzle is what's happening on a cellular level. While you sleep, your body is supposed to be running its deepest, most important cellular cleanup process. But for so many of us, this vital process gets sabotaged by a very simple, very common mineral deficiency. That cleanup process is called autophagy. The easiest way to think of it is as your body's internal recycling crew. It goes around removing damaged parts to keep your cells young and running efficiently. In fact, a major review in the journal Cell Regeneration just recently confirmed that a decline in autophagy is one of the core, undeniable hallmarks of the aging process.
So how does this cleanup crew get switched on? Well, it's activated by a protein called AMPK. The overnight fast when you're sleeping is when AMPK should be at its absolute peak. But, and this is the key, AMPK absolutely requires magnesium to function. Without enough magnesium, the cleanup crew basically never gets the call to go to work.
And this is where the theory hits reality. And it hits hard. Data from the massive NHANS study shows that over half, more than 50% of American adults are deficient in magnesium. And this problem only gets worse after the age of 50, when our gut absorption drops and very common medications can deplete it even further.
Now, this brings us to a second and extremely important warning. Do not start taking high-dose magnesium if you have stage 4 or 5 chronic kidney disease unless you are under the direct supervision of a nephrologist. The cardiac consequences are very real.
Okay, so that brings us to the final piece of this morning puzzle, your kidneys. Every single day, they're fighting a silent battle against metabolic acid, and it's a battle that gets a little bit harder with each passing year.
You see, after age 40, our kidney function slowly but surely declines. This makes it harder for them to manage the body's natural acid load. But get this, a landmark trial in the Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that a ridiculously simple intervention, just taking oral bicarbonate, slowed the rate of kidney function decline by over 68%. Just look at that graph. That's a staggering, practice-changing difference.
And it's not just about bicarbonate. The Cochrane collaboration, which is really the gold standard for medical evidence,
They reviewed multiple trials and found that citrate salts reduced the recurrence of painful kidney stones by an incredible 76%. Citrate literally stops those damaging crystals from forming in the first place. And here is our third warning. If you take lithium, digoxin, or potassium-sparing diuretics like spirulolactone, you must discuss this protocol with your doctor before you even consider starting. These drug interactions are well documented and they are not theoretical. So, okay, we've laid out 3 distinct problems that are happening every single morning. A cortisol spike from dehydration, a wasted cleanup window from magnesium deficiency, and a heavy acid burden on your kidneys. Now let's look at the simple, unified solution.
Here's the protocol. It is elegant in its simplicity, but the details matter. First, start with about 400 to 500 milliliters of room temperature water. To that, you're going to add the juice of half a fresh lemon for that kidney protective citrate. Then, add a quarter teaspoon of regular baking soda for that alkalizing bicarbonate. And finally, 150 to 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Now, the timing here is absolutely critical. Drink this within 15 minutes of waking up, and then wait at least 20 to 30 minutes before you have any food or coffee.
When it comes to choosing your magnesium, the form really does matter. Magnesium glycinate is typically the best tolerated, meaning it's easiest on the stomach. Citrate also works quite well and gives you an extra boost of that protective citrate. I would generally advise you to avoid magnesium oxide, as its absorption is just incredibly poor. And listen, this isn't just about theory and numbers on a chart. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 63-year-old patient of mine. Her kidney function decline had been accelerating for a few years. She started this protocol. 6 months later, her nephrologist was completely surprised to note that her decline had totally plateaued. This is the kind of real-world impact we're talking about. So, let's pull all this together. We're going to quickly recap the science and, maybe even more importantly, hammer home the safety aspects. We've seen exactly how this simple protocol addresses 3 core processes of aging that all converge first thing in the morning. Let's be crystal clear on this final safety checklist. I really want you to listen carefully. If you have stage 4 or 5 kidney disease, you do not add magnesium without your nephrologist's direct approval. If you have congestive heart failure, you need to discuss the sodium from the baking soda with your cardiologist. If you are on digoxin, lithium, or potassium-sparing diuretics, physician approval is absolutely required. And finally, if you're on certain antibiotics, you need to separate them from this drink by at least 2 hours to ensure they're absorbed properly.
So there you have it. 3 silent processes that accelerate aging. Cortisol exaggerated by dehydration, cellular renewal wasted by a magnesium deficit, and an acid load that slowly wears down our aging kidneys. The research is there, the mechanism is clear, the decision and the glass of water is yours.
All right, if you're over 50, you've probably seen a number on your blood test called the EGR. And let's be honest, most of us just glance at it and move on. But what if that one little number holds the key to how well you age? Today, we're going to break down what your kidney number is really telling you and why it's so critical for your long-term health. Seriously, think about it. Not your heart health, not your cholesterol, your kidneys. For most of us, the answer is probably never. And you know what? That's the whole problem. Kidneys age silently. They don't send up flares or warning signals until, get this, more than half their function is already gone. Does that sound familiar? It's what so many of us hear from our doctor after a routine blood test. And it sounds fine, right? Reassuring, like everything's under control. But what if it's not? The truth is, that whole let's keep an eye on it period, that's not a time for waiting. That's the single most important window of opportunity you have. That decade between an early, slight decline and an actual disease diagnosis, that's when you can change everything. So waiting, that's the mistake. Okay, so to take action, you've got to understand what's actually going on. So let's zoom in on the most important number for your kidney health, your eGFR. So inside each of your kidneys, you've got about 1 million of these microscopic filtering units. They're called glomeruli. Think of them like super advanced, tiny coffee filters. Your eGFR is simply a measure of how good they are at their job, how efficiently they're cleaning all the blood in your body minute by minute. Now, in a young, healthy person, the kidneys are just humming along, working at full capacity. Their eGFR is going to be somewhere between 90 and 120. Just picture an engine running at 100% power. And here is the part that almost nobody tells you. After you turn 40, your eGFR is expected to drop by about 1 point every single year. It just happens. It's not necessarily a sign of disease. It's just a natural part of aging. And because this decline is so silent and automatic, a staggering 37 million Americans are estimated to have chronic kidney disease, and the vast majority of them don't even know it. Why? Well, because their number is still sitting in that low normal, or we're monitoring it zone, just floating above the official diagnosis number of 60. But here's the thing, filtering out waste is only part of what your kidneys do. They have another absolutely critical job that gets hit hard by this decline, and it's a job most of us have never even heard of. You see, every single day, just by living, by eating food, using your muscles, your body produces acid. It's totally normal. And your kidneys work 24/7 to produce something called bicarbonate. Think of it as your body's own natural antacid, neutralizing all that metabolic acid to keep your blood pH perfectly balanced. So as the kidney's filtering ability slowly goes down, so does their ability to make this crucial bicarbonate. This creates a state called low-grade metabolic acidosis. It's a really subtle shift, not enough to set off alarm bells on a standard lab test, but believe me, it has very real and very serious consequences. So what is the price of this silent, creeping acidosis? Well, your body pays for it using two things we all really worry about as we get older: our muscles and our bones. To handle that extra acid that the kidneys can't, your body has to get creative. It starts pulling resources from other places. It actually breaks down your precious muscle tissue just to get amino acids to use as a buffer. And at the same time, it starts leaching calcium right out of your bones to help neutralize the acid in your blood. This is a direct contributor to both muscle loss and bone density loss. And here's where it gets really nasty. This whole process creates a vicious cycle. The acid that the kidneys are struggling to manage actually causes inflammation in the kidneys themselves, which can make them decline even faster. So the problem just keeps feeding itself. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but here is the most important point of all. This downward trajectory can be changed. Let's look at a quick case study that shows us exactly how. Let's meet David. He was someone who tracked his labs like a hawk, and he saw this clear, consistent decline over 10 years. I mean, look at that. 84, 74, down to 61. He was just 1 point away from an official diagnosis of chronic kidney disease. So they made 3 really simple evidence-based changes. First, he got off NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen, which can be tough on the kidneys. Second, he got really serious about his blood pressure control. And third, he started a simple protocol of adding a mix of things like citrate and bicarbonate to his morning water to help his body deal with the acid, along with a few diet tweaks. So what happened after 1 year? His eGFR was 63. For the first time in a decade, his number didn't just slow down, it actually ticked up a little. He broke the cycle. The downward slide was stopped. And listen, David's story isn't just a one-off. A major study found that simple oral bicarbonate therapy slowed the rate of kidney decline by over 68%. This isn't fringe science. It's so well established that it's now recommended in the official 2024 International Medical Guidelines. Okay, but we have to be super clear and responsible here. This is vital. If your eGFR is already below 30, or you're on certain blood pressure meds, or if you have high potassium, you absolutely must work with your doctor on this. These interventions are safe for most people, but not for everyone. And of course, any new or sudden symptoms, always see a doctor right away. And beyond specific supplements, your diet is a huge tool. Just shifting a bit from animal protein to more plant protein, eating way more alkaline-forming foods like leafy greens, getting serious about cutting sodium, and just staying properly hydrated, all of these things work together to protect your kidneys for the long haul. So let's bring this all home. It is time to shift our entire way of thinking about this, away from just passively monitoring and toward proactive action. That eGFR number tells a story. It's not just a snapshot. It's a trajectory. It's a decade-long story about how your kidneys are handling the stress of aging. And that monitoring zone in eGFR in the 60s or 70s, that's not the time to sit back and wait. That is your moment of greatest leverage. That's your time to act. So please remember this. Your kidney number is not your destiny. It is not a final verdict on your health. It is a signal. It's an early warning. And now you know exactly what that signal is telling you and what you can do about it.
All right, today we're going to talk about something that could seriously change how you look at your mornings forever. It's called autophagy. Think of it as your body's built-in cleanup crew. And trust me, after you hit 50, it's a system you really want to understand.
You ever see those people who just seem to age so well? What's their secret? It's not some magic pill or trendy diet. Turns out it's something much deeper. Their bodies are just really, really good at internal maintenance. Their cellular cleanup system is still running like a well-oiled machine.
So let's get to know this cleanup crew. We're about to dive into autophagy. And honestly, it's one of the most incredible, sophisticated things your body does.
Okay, the word itself, autophagy, literally means self-eating. Sounds kind of scary, right? But don't worry, it's not destructive at all. It's actually the opposite. It's like the ultimate recycling program inside every one of your cells. It finds the junk, the broken down parts, and recycles them into new, useful materials. It's just brilliant.
And listen, this isn't some new age wellness trend. This is hardcore science. In 2016, a biologist named Yoshinori Osumi actually won the Nobel Prize for figuring out how autophagy works. So yeah, this is a big deal, a fundamental process of life recognized at the highest level.
So how does this cleanup actually happen? Well, first, the cell spots some damage, say a tired old mitochondrion. Then it wraps it up in this little bubble, which is kind of like a tiny trash bag. That trash bag then floats over to the cell's incinerator, called a lysosome, where everything gets broken down into its basic building blocks. It's all about taking out the old trash to build something new and better.
Okay, so here's the kicker. As we get older, this amazing cleanup system, well, it starts to slow down. And this isn't just some minor inconvenience. It's a huge reason why we age. When the cleanup crew gets lazy, junk builds up, and it leads directly to something called stem cell exhaustion. Basically, the cells that are supposed to repair and regenerate our bodies just run out of steam. So what's controlling all this? It actually boils down to a single master switch inside our cells. Think of it like a light switch with two opposing forces. This is the whole game, right here. On one side, you've got AMPK. That's your cleanup mode switch. It gets flipped on when you're fasting or exercising, basically when energy is low. Its message is, hey, let's conserve energy and clean house. On the other side, you have mTOR. That's your growth mode switch. It turns on when you eat, especially protein and carbs. Its message is, time to build and grow. And when mTOR is on, autophagy is off. They can't both be on at the same time.
So think about your typical day. You eat dinner, right? mTOR is on. But then you go to sleep. As the hours pass overnight, mTOR gets quieter and quieter, and that's when AMPK starts to wake up. By the time you open your eyes in the morning after that long fast, AMPK is at its absolute peak. Your cleanup crew is working overtime. That is what we call the autophagy window.
All right, so the big question is, how do we make the most of this powerful morning window? How can we extend it, even just a little bit? Well, we're going to go through 4 simple things you have complete control over, and you can start literally tomorrow.
Okay, number 1. This is a crucial mineral. It's absolutely essential for this process, but a lot of us just don't get enough of it.
I'm talking about magnesium. Here's the deal. That AMPK cleanup switch, it literally can't turn on without magnesium. And get this, more than half of adults in the US are deficient. Plus, our ability to absorb it goes down as we get older. It's like we're trying to start a car with a dead battery, every single morning.
All right, number 2. This one is super simple, and the best part, it doesn't involve some crazy restrictive diet.
It's all about timing your first meal. And no, you don't have to do a 16-hour fast. The science actually points to something way easier. Just wait 20, maybe 30 minutes after you get up before you eat anything. That tiny little delay is enough to extend that peak cleanup time. That's it. Simple.
Okay, factor number 3. This is a big one. It turns out that what you break your fast with is just as important as when you do it.
Remember that M-core switch? It gets triggered by protein and carbs. So if your first meal is a big plate of eggs or a protein shake, bam! You've just slammed the door shut on autophagy. But if you have something like berries or a little oatmeal, it's a much more gentle wake-up call. You're easing out of that cleanup mode, not shocking the system, which gives your crew a bit more time to finish their work.
And last but not least, number 4. This is something most people have probably never even thought about in this way.
It's morning movement. See, exercise is a massive activator for that AMPK cleanup switch. So if you go for, say, a 20-minute walk before you eat breakfast, you're amplifying the signal that's already there from fasting all night.
Exactly. The signals literally stack on top of each other. You've got the signal from fasting, plus you add the signal from exercise. And what does that equal? A much, much deeper cellular cleanup.
So you might be wondering, does all this theory actually work in the real world? Let's talk about a guy named Raymond, who was 71 years old. Raymond was just feeling worn out. So we tweaked his morning routine with these 4 simple things. We added magnesium, he waited 30 minutes to eat, he took his dog for a walk before breakfast, and we changed what he was eating. That's it. 6 months later, his inflammation markers were cut in half, and his fasting glucose dropped right out of the pre-diabetic zone. But you know what really stuck with me? What he said. He told me, "I feel like the maintenance crew showed up again." I mean, how perfect is that? That's exactly what it feels like when you get this system back online. And it's so important to see that these aren't just 4 random hacks. It's all part of one single system. And this system is especially vital for organs that work really hard, like our kidneys. Their cells are constantly burning energy, and they absolutely depend on this cleanup process. So protecting this morning window isn't just a nice idea, it's essential for protecting your kidney health as you get older. Look, the amazing thing is, the blueprint for all of this is already built into you. Your body knows exactly what to do. The only thing that changes, especially after 50, is how efficiently it can do it. The maintenance crew is on standby, ready to go. So the only question left is, are you going to let them get to work?